Data analytics are important for growing small businesses because at the end of the day, if you're trying to grow a small business, it's a series of choices and decisions that you're making on how to grow that. And you can either make data-driven decisions, which are based on facts and information that you have, or you can operate by feelings and gut feel, right? And if you want to have better results, it's important to have actual information on what's actually happening so that you can make data-driven decisions. That, in layman's terms, is the simplest way to illustrate why it's valuable, because if you want to be as effective as possible in growing your business, you have to make intelligent, informed decisions, and it's impossible to do that if you don't have data on it. If you're trying to grow your business and you're wondering how will data analytics help me accomplish that, there's a lot of different ways, but probably the most glaring is transparency through data identifies opportunity, right? So if you are a manufacturer, for example, that produces widgets and you want to be able to scale your processes and produce more widgets, the easiest way to figure out how to accomplish that is to measure your widget production time and your widget defect rate, and then identify where that production time is too slow and where those defects are introduced into the process. Because now you have an actual thing that you can go focus on and try to improve that will allow you to produce more widgets, right? Like, one of the biggest benefits you get through data is just transparency. You know what's going on, you know how things are performing. And now, instead of saying, we need to produce more widgets, which is a really hard task to accomplish, you can say, on this machine, we are producing 60% of our defects, which means if we can reduce the defect rate on this machine, we can actually cut our defects in half, which is going to improve our production by this much. You give yourself tangible things to do to drive improvement, as opposed to theoretical, conceptual goals and tasks. If you're trying to identify market and marketing advantages and drive more revenue for your organization, data analytics can really help you do that by analyzing what's most effective, right? Like, you have finite resources, whether that be time of your marketing staff, whether that be ad spend, whether that be ad channels. You have finite resources. And so if you have finite resources, you want to maximize the performance of those. It could be as simple as analyzing the performance of your sales team. Maybe you have one sales individual that is really effective with referrals, but then you have another sales individual who kills it at cold calling. Well, it doesn't really make sense to equally distribute referrals and then cold call assignments to those two people if one excels in one area and one excels in the other. Instead, it would make more sense to distribute those leads or those tasks in a way where you're going to get the maximum output. But you don't know that unless you measure it, right? You don't know the close rate, you don't know the performance, you don't know which of your ad sources is more effective unless you're measuring all of those things. And so the best way to get better results in your sales and marketing efforts by using data and analytics is to make sure that your resource distribution is as effective as possible. And you can't do that unless you actually measure what works better than others at a granular level. You know, the biggest reason why we stress to everybody that data is really important in a small business is because you're not bloated when you're a small business, right? Like, when you get to large businesses, they got 1,000+ employees. There's a lot of excess capacity, right? There's a lot of people who don't have to be hyper productive. There's a lot of people who maybe are underperforming. I'm not saying that as a negative on anybody. That's just the reality for anybody who's worked in a big corporation. They know there's some of that, right? In a small business, you can't afford to have any of that, right? Like, everyone is a jack of all trades. Everyone is doing many things. Everyone has a lot of different responsibilities, and time is one of the most precious resources that you have as a small business. So I don't know why, knowing that that's true, you would not take every step you can to make sure that you're as effective and as efficient with your time as possible, right? Which is one of the things that data is about. It's about having numbers that don't lie to you, and they actually tell you like what really happens and how things really work, because that allows you to plan your actions and be very intentional about where you choose to spend your resources, including time. I don't know why you wouldn't use that as a tool when you're operating in a very lean environment already, when you're a small business and you're trying to make yourself as productive as possible.